Let's be honest, most marketers would love to do a rebrand project. But I'm gonna bet not many marketers would sign up to do one in just 10 weeks with a deadline that absolutely cannot be moved. Well, that's exactly what my next guest did. Codametrics is a company in the RCM space, and they launched their new brand in just 10 weeks at HIMSS 25. Leading that rebrand project was Carly Rose, Senior Marketing Manager at Codametrics. She is my guest today, and I am excited to sit down with her to get a behind-the-scenes look at their extremely quick rebrand project. Let's get to it.
Sway help.
Carly, welcome to the program.
Awesome. Hi, Colin. Very good to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. We love our rebrand stories here at Sway Health, or I should say, I love the rebrand stories we tell it here at Sway Health. So I'm looking forward to diving into it with you because Codametrics did a rebrand recently. But before we get there, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Codametrics?
Yes, absolutely. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Carly Rose. I currently lead marketing here at Codametrics. I am Boston-based, East Coaster. I've been at Codametrics for about a year and a half now. And then a little bit about Codametrics. We are a Series B AI company. We currently automate medical coding, so as a part of the revenue cycle. So we are currently partnered with over 25 Epic Health System customers, and we have great momentum in the market, and it's been a great ride. So.
And I have to say, I see and we see Codametrics all the time at various conferences. In fact, not this recent HIMSS, but in HIMSS 24, we had booths that were right across the aisle from each other. So,
I remember I was there. That's right when I started.
so that's a lot of fun. So we definitely know each other. So thank you for that. But I'm excited because recently Codametrics went through a rebrand. So I have to ask, why the rebrand? Was there something specific that maybe triggered it?
I'd say that over the last 8 to 12 months, Codametrics has undergone some serious growth and momentum. In spring of 2024, we closed our Series B financing, so now totaling $95 million in financing. In August, we were announced as a part of the Epic Toolbox program. And, by year's end, closing on 25 Epic Health System customers. So with the steady growth we've seen, it felt like it was time to have our look and feel meet us where we were at. We also brought on Robin Lloyd, our head of operations, and I've worked very closely with Robin to be able to get the branding program stood up. So it's been great.
So it sounds like it's more of an opportunity to kind of reflect I won't call it the modernization, but the new history, the new point that Codametrics had reached with their Series B.
That's right. That's right. I think we've had a natural evolution to get here, and just everything that makes us who we are, bringing that to the surface.
And what would you say, Carly, is the biggest difference or maybe the biggest feeling that you would get looking at the new brand versus the old brand?
Yeah, I think we've brought some innovation to the surface. We've certainly updated and brightened up our color palette and tones. I think there's been a lot of new employees that have started in the last 6 to 8 months as well, and they've really been able to harness some ownership of the new look and feel as well.
I gotta say the colors look somewhat familiar. I can't put my finger on it, but they look like something.
That's right. That's right. We love a purple here.
So, Carly, walk me through the rebrand journey. So once the decision was kind of made to rebrand, or maybe even before that, like walk me through that whole thing from the time the rebrand was a thought to the time it actually became a reality.
Yeah. So I think it all started with us planning out for 2025. What are the key goals, and what are the assets that we want to put out and create and market? And we just kept coming back to the look and feel we need to elevate that first, as our real foundation. So the steps to getting there is, first, we did a ton of internal stakeholder interviews. We spoke a lot with our subject matter experts in product and our engineering, a lot of with our ELT team as well, just at all levels to get different perspectives. And really, we settled on some core brand attributes, and those are what helped inform actually the look and feel that we landed on. So the use of warmer tones, even our use of photography now, we used to be quite graphic and animated, and now we've shifted to use more of our like stock photography and imaging with a lot of people included in our imagery, which has been very intentional choice for us. But all of that to say, all of those interviews and distilling that down into the brand attributes, we came together with a few different key concepts. We had some fun executive meetings going through all those different branding choices, which I'm sure any marketer has been a part of those meetings to some degree, and they're always quite interesting. But it's fun. I like the different feedback rounds and how you take different pieces and you keep carrying the project forward. From there, we landed on a color palette we all liked and felt like we could have ownership of, and a font choice as well that felt innovative but also clear. I'd say one of the coolest parts of the process was landing on our icon, which is almost a circular motion, and it looks a little bit like a racetrack, but there's a cool story to it. We often refer to Codemetrics as the last mile of autonomous coding, and that's meant to represent all of the data that we take in and we aggregate. We run it through our AI models, and therefore automating medical coding, and all of that gets packaged up and sent to your billing. So, and that's always been referred to as the last mile of the journey. And so that the icon is a nice nod to that. So I think that was the kind of the coolest part of the process.
That's really interesting there, what you said there. I picked up on a few things around, you had fun meetings with your executives, nothing like a mood board, right? To get
Oh,
executives excited.
yes, yes.
But you arrived at not only was the brand represented around new iconography, but also new text, new fonts, new imagery.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you went from, I guess, more of a graphic treatment to now one that's more photography based. Um,
Yeah.
was that sort of a key finding that that came out during the interviews that you had?
Yeah, I would say it was all in an effort to really grow up our brands, and connect with our customers more. We found that the more market research we had done, we could better visualize who we were trying to connect with and show those connections in photography more than in our graphics.
Gotcha. And Carly, can you walk me through the actual implementation? So, you do all this work, you arrive at all these things. What happened in terms of actually rolling the new brand out?
Yeah, sure. So first I went to one of our executive leadership team meetings, and I previewed the brand. And I got some really great feedback there from the executive team around assets to prioritize, and just being ready for certain questions, or even the generation of a form with how people need materials rebranded. So I highly recommend doing that for anybody. But from there, we actually did our internal brand launch a few days before we did our external launch, and that was a very effective way to do it. I'd say we had really thought carefully around which assets do we prioritize rolling out to our internal teams, and how can they communicate this to their customers or prospects. And then externally creating the buzz and excitement around launching. We were at HIMSS this year when we launched. So that was a nice, exciting time to do it.
So it sounded like you almost did everything at one time. Like it just was, one was the old brand, and then poof, the new brand was the next day.
Yes, it was pretty quickly followed by each other, but we're still taking a phased approach. There are still assets to be updated. I still see things and I'm like, oh, it's time. Yeah.
I get you. And Carly, how long did that whole process take from the time, you first started meeting with the executives, gathering all that feedback to flipping that switch to the new brand?
I'd say it took about probably 10 weeks. Probably about 10 weeks. Yeah.
That is fast.
Yes, it was a quick roll. I like to say we do everything here. I don't do anything slow, really. But it was a nice quick turn. I also well, I could say this to when I make recommendations, but we were up against a clock with HIMSS. So that was really truly a deadline that was driving everything.
So given that quick timeline, was there any unexpected challenge that cropped up during the rebrand process?
I think it was just not unexpected, but review cycles. You often get unexpected feedback or pieces that you need to go back and reconsider. The shape of the icon was now it's my favorite part of the rebrand, but it was also the most challenging part of the rebrand. Um, and we also went back and forth on the case of the font in our logo quite a bit because we went from an all caps logo to a multi-case logo, and yeah, we went back and forth.
No, it's funny. I think marketers can appreciate that. I think everyone else outside of marketing just rolls their eyes when you hear this kind of talk, but it makes a big difference, right? Like
Oh,
all
for sure.
caps means one thing. Mid word capitalization means totally something different, right? Versus all lowercase, which seems to be a new trend, right? It's all lowercase. But good luck putting that into a document, right? When you have to do a proposal, all lowercase causes a problem. So
That's right.
uh, especially if your name is, well, yours is fairly unique, so that's not so bad. But there are other companies where it just looks like a word, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not a company name. But how have people reacted to the new brand? What's the reaction been from, for example, your customers and your staff?
I think people have been excited. Just overall, it's been very excited, and they've really embraced it. I think for quite a few folks, it felt like it was time. I almost felt like we were overdue for this because, you know, we have accomplished so much in such a quick period of time, but the brand in some ways felt a little left behind. So they were ready. We were ready to make this transition. So folks have been very, very positive to it. And I've heard really good things about the way that we rolled it out because there was a lot of different folks that we took into consideration with it. So that's been a very positive experience. Just making sure that like all voices have been heard and being able to address their needs with different company assets and what have you.
Did you run into any resistance at all internally, or was everyone pretty much on board once you showed them the previews of the brand and the new colors and things like that?
I think I've heard people are cautiously optimistic. Like I think it takes people time to adjust. And a lot of things in branding and creative, they don't make sense until they do. So I think as people get used to it, I've almost heard like more positive feedback a few weeks or months after we launched it, more than like day one, because I think people need like an adjustment period with all creative things.
Now, you mentioned a little bit there around some of the things you did to hype up or to get people excited about that launch. What were some of those things that you did?
Yeah, so for internally, we launched an internal company. It was almost crafted like a newsletter, but it was like a drafted creative email with the new branding. And we ran an employee engagement raffle as well. So we launched with new signature graphics and LinkedIn banners. So we had a raffle going on that, if you can update your signature and LinkedIn banner by X date, then you're entered to win for this raffle for we do like a employee engagement portal where we award people points. So and that was very effective. So I was very excited to see the amount of engagement that we got that way. So super effective tool.
And did you preview this at all to your customers or anyone externally, or was it a surprise for them?
It was a surprise for them. We certainly did we did quite a bit of market research, but we had not released to any customers prior to launching the brand. So now we're actually now doing our quarterly business review meetings. So we've prepared some materials as our customer teams are doing those meetings that a lot of our customers are getting to see, like, this is how this new brand trickles down to you and the assets that you're receiving, which has been exciting. We've received some really positive feedback on those as well.
So I have to ask this. You know, whenever I've done a rebrand, there's always this sort of, it's almost like spring, you know, like it's a whole new world. Everything's, you know, new and different. Is there anything that you're now able to do under the new brand that might have been a bit challenging or difficult to do under your older brand?
Yes, we currently have a few big projects currently in development, starting with our website. So actually, when we launched the new branding, we did not try and launch a new website in the 10-week time frame, because that is just too aggressive even for myself. So we just reskinned the website with brand colors and some imagery. Now that the new branding is underway, we're actually doing like a full scale update to our current website, which is very exciting. We've also got some video content in the works as well. So it's really just laid this foundation where, you know, the campaigns we generate and now the assets that truly live on and represent your brand in many ways, bringing those all up to the level that we're ready to get them.
You'd almost think, given your old brand, and by the way, I was familiar with it just because we're familiar with the company, you know, being very graphic, you know,
Mhm.
it felt almost, I wonder if it felt very restrictive to say, well, the videos that you would have to produce would have to be motion graphic styles, right? Because that's the style of everything on your website. It would be actually kind of weird to see
Yeah,
people in your videos, right?
yeah.
But now that you're moving towards photography, real people, stock photography, as you put it, now you have more flexibility, right? Because you can have real life, and then you can still have some graphic elements, but they're not the focal like they were maybe in the older brand.
That's absolutely right. The way that we showcase our customers and tell their stories, and even downstream how our products and solutions affect our patients, both of those have allowed us to just bring this whole new human component into storytelling that has been really powerful. Yeah.
If I get together with you a year from now, what do you hope people will be saying about your new brand?
Oh, that is a great question. I hope they just say that, you know, Codometrics, they've done something really remarkable and cool, but yet they've remained true to who they are. And that's always been our intention, with how we look and how we feel and how we approach our story and what we put out into the market.
In all of our rebrand stories, I always ask this question, so get ready for it.
Mhm.
Carly, what advice do you have for others who are considering or going through a rebrand?
Hang in there. But what I would really recommend is, you know, I think branding is an easy thing to get caught up in terms of review cycles and who should be involved and who shouldn't be involved. I highly recommend putting milestones into your rebranding process, like an event, a cornerstone or industry event, for example, is a great way. You know, the timelines become pretty aggressive when you do this, but I highly recommend, because it gets branding finalized, or it gets to a point where you can all just take a step back, and you have to deliver at least to some level to that event or milestone. And it allows people to just take pause and acknowledge that you've come this far, and it's exciting that way. So I recommend, you know, placing some deadlines around events or milestones of some sort.
Maybe not 10 weeks, maybe a bit longer. Give yourself a little bit more breathing room
So
than
true.
10
Yeah. Give
weeks.
yourself a little more than 10 weeks. Yeah.
But you certainly picked a great conference to do that. HIMSS, obviously a big conference for all of us in health IT, so definitely a big show and a nice place to reveal it. And kudos for you for getting it done so quickly. 10 weeks is exceedingly short for a rebrand of a company.
Thank you. Yes, in true Codometrics fashion. So it's been good.
Final question for you, Carly. Where can people go to learn more about Codometrics?
Absolutely. Always our website, codametrics.com, especially in the next couple months, we will have a nice, shiny new website out there. But for even more updated news, our LinkedIn, we've always got new content available and coming out on the LinkedIn feed. So highly recommend to follow.
And for those listening, Codametrics is Codametrix. Well, Carly, thank you so much for sharing this information. Thank you so much for being on the program today.
Awesome. Thank you, Colin. I really appreciate getting to share the story.
I have covered a lot of rebrand stories over the years, but there aren't very many that were done on such a compressed timeline as what Carly Rose shared with us. 10 weeks is not a lot of time to completely rebrand a company and also prepare for the biggest conference on the health IT calendar. That is not something I would have volunteered for. By the way, I loved the explanation she shared with us about the racetrack/last mile emblem that is now part of the new Codametrics brand. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head over to Sway Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health, where you will find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.